Alrighty, good afternoon and welcome to our session. So my name is Marius and I'm happy to talk today about switching to iPhone and some of the great things that come along when you make that switch. So we're glad you joined us this afternoon, and we should be just about the hour for our session today. So welcome. Before we get started, a couple of things to mention, which is firstly, definitely interact with us. So you can say hello in the chat. So you'll see in Zoom, there's a chat panel. So tell me where you are joining from this afternoon. Also tell me which phone you're using. If it's an iPhone, that's great. If it's not an iPhone, also tell us, just so we know. Secondly, there's also a Q&A panel. So if you've got any particular questions, then please reach out using the Q&A. And then also, we'd like to hear from you. So you can use the hashtag iStoreMeets and post your thoughts. Maybe, I don't know, something you've learned. That'll be great to see. And you can do that on Facebook and on Instagram. Just make sure to use the hashtag iStoreMeets and stand a chance to win some great prizes. Finally, also, if you have something to share when it comes to the world of Apple, then you can also reach out to our team using the email address on the screen, and hopefully we can then get your thoughts. So with that being said, let's start talking about what we are here for today, which is switching to iPhone and how switching to iPhone can make your life easier. So I'm going to turn on my camera as well so you can see me, and also just introduce myself. So there we go. Hello, everybody. So nice to be with you on this session. So like I said, my name is Marius, and we've got about the hour. So quite happy to cover quite a few things. And then if there are any questions, any comments, quite happy as well for you to share those in the chat or in the Q&A. And we'll hopefully have a nice discussion. So let's get going with our session this afternoon. And I see some of you also attended or answered our poll. So thanks for doing that. Just seeing where people are from. Okay, so let's start talking about iPhone and some of the great reasons why you might want to consider switching to an iPhone. And one of the big ones, and this is one of my, I think, favorite things about iPhone, is when it comes to software updates, you get access to the latest versions for many, many generations of iPhone. So as you can see on the screen at the moment, going back all the way to 2015, any iPhone user essentially that has an iPhone all the way back to an iPhone 6S or the iPhone SE first generation means all those customers can upgrade to the latest version of the software. And also this happens whenever Apple releases that update. So at the moment we're sitting on iOS 14, and also recently we've seen that actually more than 80% of customers on all iPhones across the world are running iOS 14, which is a great thing because it means the bulk of the users are running the latest software. They get access to the latest features and also to the latest security and privacy updates. So that's quite a cool thing in terms of it doesn't matter which iPhone you have. Our customers have come to expect this. You get updates for many, many years. This also actually plays into, just the longevity of your device, because you got so many years of support when it comes to having the latest software. It means even after a couple of years, if you decide to upgrade to a newer device, that device still being fully functional and fully updated, you can either pass it along to someone or even trade it in for a good value on an upgrade. So a couple of reasons, I guess, is then to start with is going to be, just software and having the latest version of the software. By the way, talking about software, we're also excited that there is a new version coming out real soon. So Apple is currently beta testing iOS 14.5. And a couple of great things, especially with regards to privacy coming into that update, and also making it easier to unlock your iPhone, also when you're having a mask on your face. So let's continue and talk about some of the things to maybe add to that list of, some of the great things about iPhone. And I guess we'll start off with talking about some of the apps you can use on iPhone. So as you can see, there's a whole list of reasons there that I've kind of jotted down. And we'll just touch on a couple of them for a little bit. But for instance, because the iPhone only has a couple of models I guess you got, screen size wise and, maybe just, I guess just how many different variations you have. There's only so many iPhones, which means when developers are making apps for iPhone, they can really optimize their apps to be really, really well made for iPhone. Now, this in contrast to the world of Android, where you have so many different options and vendors and sizes and processors, and there's a lot of fragmentation, which means when developers make apps for all of those different versions, they kind of make something that works across all of them. And they do work obviously on a platform, but they're not as optimized as it is when it comes to iPhone. That's why whenever I've spoken to people that have tried apps on, both platforms, quite often what you'll hear is, they're just so surprised how well the app works on iPhone. And that's probably one of the reasons, right, in terms of it being very much optimized for iPhone. The other thing about this also is in the world of iPhone, all the apps come through the App Store, and Apple actually curates that App Store quite vigorously, which means all the apps on there have been checked, and they are checking them. Are they doing what they're supposed to do? Are there any maybe malicious content in there? And they will obviously remove them, which means the App Store is a very safe place. So if you're downloading apps, you don't have to worry really about what you're downloading. Even if your kids are on there, they are not going to find anything that is going to be a little bit odd. It is really a safe and secure place to find your apps. Quite often, you'll also find apps that are first on the App Store and remain exclusive on the App Store. A lot of games, for instance, come out first on iOS. Currently, I don't know how many of you have heard of the app Clubhouse, which is still exclusive on iOS. So there's a lot of great apps on the App Store, which you might not find on other platforms. Also, just because it's so easy to get it on the iPhone in the first place, just because of the reasons we spoke about earlier. You don't have to consider all those different variants, I guess, when it comes to just screen sizes and operating systems that's out there. A question also I get asked a lot is, what about free apps? So how many free apps do we have on the App Store? There seems to be a bit of a misconception that if you go with iPhone, you are going to have to pay for a lot of the apps. And happy to say, well, it's not actually the case. As you can see also on the screen, I do have the figures, and it is pretty much the majority, like 84% of apps on the App Store will be free. And also, if you're using apps already, including all the popular ones, you'll find them on the App Store as well. So and including things like your favorite Google apps. So if someone is really invested in the world of Google, pretty much all the Google apps are there. Same goes for Microsoft, and pretty much all the top apps you'll definitely find on the App Store. So talking about apps, let's maybe also look at some of the apps that you get with an iPhone out of the box. Here's the cool thing. When you get an iPhone, and we'll start with creativity and move on to productivity as well. But there are literally a host of apps that you get along with your iPhone that you don't actually have to go and download. They're there for you already. And I'm talking maybe on the creativity side of some of the Apple favorites, which is apps like iMovie for making movies and trailers, GarageBand, for those interested in maybe making some music related, anything, editing your photos, or even just maybe putting together a quick little clip using the Clips app. So let me actually maybe just jump in and show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to quickly mirror up my iPhone for a second, and let's see. And I'll let you just take maybe 2 minutes to show you what some of these apps look like, so you can have an idea how they work and how they function. So hopefully you're seeing my iPhone on your screen, and you can see we've got a couple of things on my home screen already. If you don't find it there, I can always go to the app library and just search for it there. But let's start with movie making. I don't know, how many of you find that you take videos? Maybe there's a party, maybe you've gone on holiday, and you've got a collection of videos on your device, but you never end up doing something cool with it, right? So you never get to the point where you have something that you can share, maybe as a final product. So the iPhone has got a great app for that. It's called iMovie, and it comes with your device. So let me open up iMovie, and you can see as you start, you can make a new project. So I've got nothing at the moment. Let's make a new project, and a couple of options. If you go with the movie option, this is like more traditional video editing. You've got a timeline. and you can lay out your videos and add soundtracks and do transitions, etc. But just for our little demo now, I'm going to go with the trailer because it's quick and easy, right? And you can do something quite fun. So let me go and do a new trailer. So a couple of themes to choose from, so you can go and check them out. There's a fairy tale, family. Let's go with, I just guess, expedition. It's a nice bit of a dramatic theme, right? So I'm going to go with expedition and simply going to tap on create on the top right-hand corner. And as you start, you can then quickly lay out your trailer in terms of, okay, well, what is the name of your trailer firstly, or your movie? Who is the cast in there? You can do things like, obviously, what is the studio name, and fill in a couple of things. We'll just maybe fill in one or two things here just to get us going. So we'll call this just iStore Meets for now. And I guess you can go ahead and put in your cast members, director of photography. Maybe you can put your spouse's name there if you're taking maybe a movie of the kids. And maybe if they got dressed very nicely on the day, then definitely you can put all those details in. But once you got your outline, you can then also quickly go into storyboard right next to it and literally just drop in some of your videos. So for instance, you can see it says iStore Meets Productions, 3 students. All these things are editable, so you can go ahead and change this. So let's say 3, 10Ds, right? And literally you go into let's say Rick, you're going to find either one of your photos. Let's just go into all of them for a second. And hopefully you can find a photo of someone here. I've got lots of flowers here. Here we go, some people. So let's say that there's Rick. And then we got Melanie or Melanie. Just need to download that real quick from iCloud. And Colin. So I see, let's see if we've got someone else here that we can call Colin, I guess, this guy over here. Also just quickly downloading from iCloud, and there we go, right? And the point is you'll go ahead and just fill up all these little bits. Right now there's a group shot, so you might want to put in a group shot like that. And obviously I'm just going random here, but if you want to put something together like your holiday, maybe with the kids doing something cool, you can, as you can see, you can really kind of find and fine tune this exactly like you want. So let's just do 2 more just to kind of finish off, I guess, the first little section there of iMovie trailers. So we're going to go with that guy. And then finally, we're going to do a close up here, and let's choose this lady over here. Right. So once I'm done with that, and you can see there's a few more that I could have done, maybe like another 20 shots or so if I wanted to get them all. But let's actually quickly just view what we got up to this stage. So let me preview this for everybody. I see we're not getting any sound. So let me quickly just see if I can turn on my volume and make sure we got everything going here. Let's try that again. I guess the volume is coming through Zoom. So that's unfortunate. You're not going to hear the sound effects, but it's actually going to be quite cinematic. And as you can see, there's our 3 cast members. And then on a bit of a quest for hidden treasure, right? And I've just put photos in there. But essentially what you want to do is, go and continue use your videos and photos, any mix of those, and end up with a little trailer. And once you've completed all of that, I'm simply going to say done. And as you can see right at the bottom, I can then say, well, share this. How do you want to share this? You maybe want to save it to maybe just to your library as a video. You can put it on Facebook. You can put it on YouTube. And essentially, this little app is going to help you to do all of that. So I guess just a quick little start in terms of creativity. So it makes it easier for you to do a whole bunch of stuff that potentially you had to download software, maybe pay for software to do. And iMovie has got some amazing things in there. If you actually go and search YouTube for videos made with iMovie, you'll see there's some amazing things that people have done already. So that's in the world of maybe just movies, but let's talk about photography for a little bit, because I think probably everyone is a photographer these days in terms of having good cameras in your pocket, in terms of your phone camera, and having many photos that you take every day. Gone are the days where you only take a couple of photos. I think people pretty much take thousands of photos per year. So you need a good system to edit them, to organize them, and to make sure you can get the most from your photos. So let's look at a couple of ways that you can do exactly that. So I'm going to head into the Photos app. So you can see that we saw some of these photos in there earlier. So I just want to show you a couple of things. So firstly, maybe because I've got a lot of photos in here, What about searching and finding for your photos? How will this work on an iPhone, and how easy is this? Well, luckily there's a search button right at the bottom, and you can search for objects, for kind of places, anything really that you can think of. So let's say, for instance, you're going to search for bicycles. As you can see, it'll find photos of bicycles, or maybe you want to go with, I don't know, mountains, right? Or oceans. So firstly, this is also just to let you know, this is all happening on device. So from the privacy point of view, because Apple is really strong about privacy, all these photos doesn't get processed in the cloud, for instance, and that's how all this information gets tagged. This happens live and on your device. So from a privacy point of view, that's something maybe just to know about. But also, let's say you don't know where you've searching for a particular photo, but you kind of can't find it because you've got so many different photos. The other thing I want to show you is here, obviously, if you go to, you can see it there as well, but if I go to albums and I just scroll down, you can see there's a little thing called places. So you can then browse a map essentially. And on my demo library here, I've only got a few photos, but I can maybe quickly go and find this one photo because I know it was taken in the Drakensberg. So as I just quickly scroll to that area on a map, I can go, oh yeah, that's the photo I'm looking for. The one that was taken in the Drakensberg, right? So quite nice in terms of how to do that. And then one last thing to show you in terms of photos, let's go into maybe something called live photo. So essentially every photo you take is a live photo. So what does that mean? It means actually it records like a second and a half before and after you press the shutter button, which means if you want to relive that moment, imagine again, the kids running around or the dogs doing something cool. Not only do you have like the still of the actual moment, actually you also got like a bit of a moment that goes around with it. So for instance, let me show you this one here of the horse. You can see it's just a photo of a horse, but if I look on the top left, it says live. So what this means, if I just tap on the screen, you can see, there we go. I've got actually the horse running around. And not only do I have a little moment, which I can replay, the other cool thing about this also, I can actually go and edit this and say edit. Tap on the live photo option at the bottom, and I can choose kind of the best moment from that whole range of frames. So for instance, maybe I really like it where the dust gets kicked off from the ground, I guess right over there. And I can say, well, yep, that is going to be my new key photo. And I can kind of just go and save it like that. So a live photo is pretty cool in terms of allowing you to, I'm just going to not save that one for now, but allowing you to go and adjust that moment. So I think about maybe those times when you're taking a group photo and there's always someone that's looking away, right? Or they're blinking their eyes or something's happening. You can actually go and adjust it afterwards and find the moment that everyone is looking into the camera, right? So I guess just a couple examples, and these things are all included with your iPhone. So to maybe just get the most from your movies and also from your photos. So we are going to move along and head back to the presentation. But let's see. I see also Nigel is asking how are photographs tagged? Is this using AI or manual? No, so it is actually using machine learning. So definitely AI. So Apple has got something built into their phones and into their processors called the neural engine. And actually on the newest devices, there's actually like multiple cores which are dedicated just to this, which means things like recognizing faces, recognizing scenes is all happening pretty much on the phone and also live. So even if you're framing a photo, so before you press that shutter button, it's already picking up things in the scene in terms of the faces in the scene, and it'll adjust it accordingly. So hopefully that answers your question, Nigel. So let's move along. I want to just prop my presentation back on the screen because we're talking about creativity being included. So I didn't even show you the GarageBand one, but if you're interested, we've got a session at 2 p.m. today, which will be on iPad, but it'll work pretty much the same. And it's going to cover all the things you can do just focusing on GarageBand and putting some tracks together to make some music. So let's move along. I also want to talk about productivity. And I think a lot of you will say, okay, well, creativity is cool, but maybe it's not my thing. Although I said, I guess most people are probably into photography, but let's say you are more into the, I don't know, productivity space. You want to get things done. You've got documents, you've got presentations, you've got emails, you've got, I don't know, calendars, and tasks to complete. So also there's a whole bunch of apps included with iPhone, which really gets you going on these things. And I'm talking about the ones you see on the screen at the moment. Let me tell you what they are. So we got the one in the blue, it's called Keynote. This is for making presentations. We've got numbers for spreadsheets. We've got Pages for documents and word editing. And also there's another one there called Shortcuts, which is actually like a bit of an automation app where you can set up different things and tasks and automate them and actually build like a whole workflow, which you can then trigger maybe at a time of day, or maybe even just with your voice. If you say, do the following, it'll kind of do that. Let me also quickly show you a couple of things when it comes to these productivity apps, because some of you might be thinking, it's nice that there's apps included here, Marius, but are they any good, right? So let me show you a quick little example of what they can do. So I'm going to just get my iPhone back on the screen one more time. And let's jump into something like presentations. So you might be thinking, well, it's not really something I do on my phone. I probably have a laptop for that. That's where I do my presentations. Well, let me tell you, once you can see what Keynote can do in terms of presentations, you'll probably go like, well, maybe I should be using my phone for presentations. And by the way, Keynote also comes with a Mac. It also comes with an iPad. So if you have any of those devices, it is fully compatible. You can start on the iPhone and actually then finish off on the Mac as well. So let's go and quickly find Keynote. So it is here in our library. There we go, Keynote. And let's go ahead and just make a new presentation. So I'm just going to start with a new blank presentation. And again, just maybe a couple of minutes to show you what you can do in Keynote. So let's start with a theme. There are some pretty great themes in Keynote. So I don't know, we're really going to go with anyone here that makes sense, but maybe this one here that says my presentation with the lady in yellow. Okay, so we've got presentation and going, and you just maybe want to add some slides. So you go to the bottom and maybe you want to add another slide with a couple of photos, maybe another one. Let's just do a blank one, because obviously you can go ahead and do a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm just going to show you a couple of things, what you can do in Keynote. So for instance, on this third slide, which is a blank one, let's go and insert something. So I tap on the plus button. I go and find insert from, where you can access all your cloud storage. If you've got Dropbox linked, if you've got Google Drive linked, it'll all show up here. So you can access all those files. But let's put in maybe just a background of a forest. Okay, so we've got the forest in there. I'm just going to maybe scale it up a bit. I wonder if I turn it this way, if it'll show up and zoom. I think that probably shows up a little bit better on your side. Maybe let me know, but I think that's going to be slightly better to view, right? So if I'm going into landscape mode. So let's say we've got the forest, and that is fine, but let's do something cool with this. Let's add something more. So I'm going to go back to the plus button and insert from one more time, and let's add some birds. Okay, so we've got birds flying through the forest, but as you can see, maybe it doesn't work so well right now because they got this very moody forest, and we've got this birds on the blue sky. So how do we fix this? So let me show you the power of Keynote on your phone. Okay, so check this out. I'm simply going to tap on that image of the bird, go to the top area where I have those little tools, and let's go and tap on the one that has like a little paintbrush. So this is like our formatting options for Keynote. So tap on the paintbrush. And you can see there's a couple of things. You can change the style. You can do things with the image, maybe the arrangement. But let's go to image. And I want to show you something called Instant Alpha. So what Instant Alpha will do, you can then drag across, you can see, to make certain areas transparent. So check this out. This is pretty cool. I'm simply going to drag on the screen. And as I drag, you can see I'm selecting all the blue background kind of a selection there. And if I let go and say done, I don't know if you just think that is magic, but I've just removed the background from this image on my phone in my presentation software, right? And you can see now I've got the parrot sitting there almost alone. I've still got some other birds over there. So let's actually fix it up properly. So I'm just going to double tap on the bird to get into my cropping mode. And what I can do is simply actually just drag those edges in to crop out the other birds. There we go. And click on done. And essentially, I've got this presentation software on my iPhone, which I've opened up. It comes included. I've added some images here, and I've done stuff that you might say, well, this is probably something you probably have to do in Photoshop normally. But yeah, here's the cool thing with Keynote. you can do it nice and easily, right? So maybe let's do one final thing. Are you saying, okay, what about some animation tools? Yeah, let's get this parrot to fly around. So I'm going to actually take this parrot and tap on where it says animate on the top. And it says, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to build in terms of the way it appears? Maybe do you want to action, or do you want to have it build out so it kind of disappears off the slide? So let's just do maybe a build in. And you can see there's a whole bunch of options. You can have it fall in. If you go to action, there's also a couple of cool things. You can actually create a path. Check this out. So I can actually just kind of do that and say the parrot is going to fly across here. And as you can see, it'll just fly across the screen. So yeah, let's go back. This is not a session on Keynote particularly, but just on this one kind of thing, I wanted to show you how easy it is to do something like this. Let's tap on done and say done again. And yeah, this is just with the software that comes with your iPhone. So you can actually make a presentation. Imagine you are on the way to a client, you got something to put together, or maybe just want to do a final touch on your presentation. You've actually got all the tools here on your iPhone to do it, I guess, right there, wherever you are. So once you got your presentation, and there's a lot in here, extra things, which we're not going to cover now, but maybe just do one final thing, which is what about sharing this? What you're saying, okay, well, this is pretty nice, but what if I'm sending this to someone that doesn't have an iPhone? That's pretty fine as well, because I can go to those buttons on the top and I can say, okay, well, share this or export this. So if I export it, it says, okay, well, what format do you want to send this in? Do you want to send it as a PDF or as a PowerPoint, right? Do you even want to save it as a movie? So your whole presentation with all those animations, or even save it as a movie. And again, you can upload it to YouTube if you want. But yeah, essentially just showing here that it is very compatible. So I can create this on my phone, do all the things we've just done, and send it to my colleague, even though they don't have an iPhone. Maybe they've just got something with PowerPoint, and they will still be able to kind of see what I'm doing. All right, so we're talking about a couple of things here, and in this case, just productivity. So hopefully that kind of shows you the power of what comes included with an iPhone, right? So that was just a presentation side, but also you got the same for working with numbers. You got like a spreadsheet application, and also you've got a Pages application, which all of them work quite similarly, by the way. So you got the same tools, but with that same creativity built in. So you can, for instance, then take your Pages document, do something cool, even like that instant alpha we've just seen, and also export that to Word, for instance. The final one there you see on the screen is called Shortcuts. So I'll just quickly show you what this looks like. If I head over to my library, you can see I can see it there already on the right-hand side. So if I go into the Shortcuts app, this allows you to create little workflows. And let's say you do a whole bunch of things. Let's say you, I don't know, need to every morning, I don't know, check for your email. And then if there's an email from a particular person, you need to forward it to someone else. Or maybe even just something simple like when you arrive at the office, you want to maybe just let your partner know that you've arrived by sending them a message. So Shortcuts can do all of those little things. You can see I've got a whole gallery which you can go and browse, right? A whole bunch of stuff that is there for you to go and maybe find some inspiration. But let's just go to automation, which is the one in the middle at the bottom. And it says, okay, what do you want to do? Let's create a personal automation. And it says, okay, well, you know, when do you want this automation to trigger? So for instance, I can say when I leave, when I arrive, when you do, like, for instance, get an email from Jane, as you can see in the examples there, when you connect to a certain Wi-Fi network, you can see you can really set this up in many different ways, right? So let's say just when we arrive, and let's choose location. So we can search for something. You can see we searched for Sandton City earlier. So let's go with that, Sandton City. And then you can specify like, do you really want to be it very specifically in the middle of Sandton City, or maybe just on that whole block? Let's just go with the whole block to make sure we don't miss this, right? So I can say done, I can say next, and then we can add another action, right? So we can now search for things. So they can say something like, let's say message. You can see you can WhatsApp, you can message, you can send a message via WhatsApp. So let's just go with message. And you can then customize that, for instance, let's say to your partner's number. So essentially, without even taking your phone out of your pocket, as soon as you arrive in Sandton City, and let's say you've taken a couple of hours to get there, this will trigger because obviously you've reached that little geofence, and it'll send a message to whoever you specify here to do that. So I'm just going to not go throughout the whole thing, but pretty cool, right? And again, this is built into your iPhone, and you can do some amazing things using the Shortcuts app. You can even then set it up so it works with Siri. So if you say, hey, Siri, do X, Y, Z, it'll actually then trigger that little shortcut as well. Alrighty, so I'm just checking a couple of things in terms of the chat and also the Q&A. Let's see, Nigel's got another question here. Productivity is your thing, right? So you're currently using a BlackBerry Passport, and hence your interest in iPhone. You also use a MacBook Pro as your main computer. Yeah, so what we'll talk about next, actually, Nigel, also how these things integrate. So if you've got a Mac and an iPhone, then having one of them is like magic. But as soon as you have multiple of these things, then it actually becomes really, really awesome. So we'll chat about that in just a minute as well. So actually, let's get back to my presentation so we can continue with that. There we go, my presentation. And let's talk about exactly what you're mentioning there, Nigel, which is, a whole ecosystem of products. So here's the thing with Apple that I think you really need to understand. So it's one of the few companies that really control the whole ecosystem. And what do I mean with that? They make the hardware. So they put together, for instance, the iPhone. They even put together the processor in the iPhone and on their Macs, as you might know. But also they do the software. So they control the hardware and the software. And then also on top of that, even the services. So for instance, something like iCloud, right? So all those things integrate very, very smoothly. And with that, you get a type of integration and a seamlessness, which you won't find really anywhere else because Apple controls all of that, right? So I guess for the other manufacturers, someone makes the hardware, someone else makes the software, and they can make it work. But as you can just imagine, with Apple controlling all of that, all the engineers, all these teams can really talk to each other and kind of make sure that these different parts can really work together very seamlessly. That's why, for instance, even at the bottom of the screen, you can see it says faster, more efficient. I don't know if anyone has seen maybe some of these tests on YouTube where they look at like speed of phones and they look at maybe like battery life, etc. What you'll quite often see is that the iPhones have smaller batteries in general, right? So an iPhone will have a smaller battery, but if they run the tests, even with a smaller battery, you'll see the iPhone usually still wins the test, right? Or comes along the same kind of a par as some of the phones with bigger batteries. And really, this is because Apple can optimize it so much, right? That hardware and software working together. And there's a couple of things you can see here, right? So for instance, we'll talk about iCloud in a second and how that works. But really even just stuff like, I don't know, AirPods. If you have never seen this before, it is actually really cool. So if you buy a pair of AirPods and you want to connect them to your iPhone, you don't have to go up and set up all kinds of little codes and Bluetooth and pairing. So what you do is you just bring them close to your phone, you open a little box, and already it picks up. It says, well, there's these AirPods around. Do you want to connect to them? And literally with one press of a button, you've connected and linked to those AirPods. But it doesn't stop there. If you also have a Mac, for instance, those AirPods are also connected to your Mac. If you have an iPad, they're also connected to your iPad or even to your watch. So for instance, if you go for a run and you only have your watch with you, but you've never actually paired them with your watch, that's fine because they're already paired because of the ecosystem being integrated. So, so let's quickly have an example of that, right? So I'm going to actually do something else here. I'm going to share another device here. So I've got an iPad here as well because I want to show you how these things integrate. So here's my iPad as well, right? You can see iPad. And let's go and actually find something here. I want to show you something. I've got a couple of documents here in my Files app, and you can see there's one in Pages. We spoke about Pages on our iPhone as well. So let's open up Pages on iPad, and you can see we've got a whole bunch of pages here that we're busy with. So what if we wanted to take something from here, but we wanted to actually have this on our iPhone, right? So how would I get this image of this dinosaur skeleton onto my iPhone? Well, really easy because of the integration, right? All I have to do is actually go and copy it there. You can see I click on copy. If I now go back and share my iPhone on the screen real quick. So let's get my iPhone on the screen and let's go into just something like the Notes app, right? Just nothing really here, just some notes, or maybe this could be an email or whatever, right? So let me just go down maybe a couple of lines, press on the screen, and then I'm going to tap on paste, right? And what you'll see is it says pasting from my iPad Pro. And there you go. I've got the little skeleton on my iPhone. So what happened here? So I've actually copied and pasted between different devices. I copied on my iPad. I went to my iPhone and I then pasted. And by the way, Nigel, I think you mentioned you have a Mac. This is the same thing you can do. So you can copy on your Mac or your iPhone, and then you can paste on the other device, right? And this is called universal clipboard. And there's a couple of things like this that you can really kind of start doing. For instance, again, if you've got an iPhone and a Mac, and maybe you're working on your Mac, but your iPhone is in another room, you can still receive calls and make calls from your Mac. So that call will start coming through. Your phone is maybe charging upstairs, but actually also your Mac will start to ring, and you can just pick it up on your Mac and continue the conversation. So there's so many little things that really comes into play because Apple can control the hardware and the software and services, and also because they make different products. And as soon as you kind of, have more than one Apple product, you'll see, for instance, with the watch and the phone, or maybe the iPad and the Mac, right? So even I think for those of you looking at the session the other day, you can even use your iPad as a second screen to your Mac, right? So that's the kind of integration that really works in iOS and in Apple in general. All right, so back to our presentation. So a couple more things to share, all right? So let's talk about the next one, which is, I think, a pretty big one. I'm not sure about you all, but I think you would agree with me if I said that you probably have stuff on your devices which are, I don't know, private, sensitive, confidential. I'm talking about, I don't know, emails, messages, I don't know, banking statements that you want to keep confidential. And here's the big thing about Apple, right? So privacy is one of the key values, right? So we're talking about, if we talk about Apple, we'll talk about things like the environment being very important to them, accessibility, making things available, doesn't matter your ability, but also privacy. So you can see there's a few things I've got on the screen here, which talks about privacy. For instance, more secure facial authentication. A lot of people like to say, well, the iPhone has got a big notch. Why does it have this big notch, right? It's actually because there's some amazing technology built into that little area on the top of your screen, right? So it's got, for instance, something called a dot projector, which projects about 30,000 dots onto your face in infrared. And then it scans the 3D kind of dimensions of your face, and that's how it unlocks your device. So for instance, just having a photo of someone or a video, you're not going to be able to unlock, right? So very, very secure in terms of authentication, right? We spoke about software updates earlier, where you always have the latest versions of the software. It's privacy and software and security kind of go hand in hand. So having the latest version of everything, it's just going to give you the best protection. Like we said, there's a new version coming out real soon that brings even more things with regards to privacy. But sometimes it's even the small things, right? So for instance, and I'll show you this in a second, there's something called a Safari privacy report, which means actually even in the browser, it is blocking those little ad-based trackers in the background. So these trackers, they're trying to track you. And what these ad-based companies do, and also some of the big companies like Facebook and Google, they try and build a profile, right? So they can obviously sell you ads. So Apple has no interest in that, and they're actually building tools to try and limit that on your device. Let's see what else. Approximate location, for instance, if you are setting up your, I guess, the settings when it comes to your privacy, you can actually tell an app that it can't know your exact location. It can only know your approximate location. So for instance, the weather app doesn't know your street address. It only knows your neighborhood. And again, from a privacy point of view, you've got access to all those tools. But I wanted to show you maybe just one of those things. So let me quickly get my iPhone back on the screen. And we still have the dinosaur there. So let's go and quickly go into the web, right? So I'm going to jump out of that and jump into Safari, which is our web browser. And, as you can see, I'm browsing a website here. So New York Times. If I tap just on the very top left-hand corner, you'll see there's a small A and a big A. So there's a couple of things I can do here. So firstly, there's something called reader mode, will take away all the ads, and I can just read the actual article. So this is like a little side demo, right? This is not so much privacy, but since I'm here, I might as well show you. But the other thing I wanted to actually show you is if I go back there, if I just exit reader mode, and you'll see at the bottom, it says privacy report, 11 trackers prevented. So just by being on this one single website, which is a New York Times article, there's actually 11 trackers that's been trying to kind of track and build a bit of a profile from me in the background. And Safari, because Apple is so big on privacy, the built-in browser is actually going to block that by default, right? So there's that. There's also little things. For instance, let me show you this. If I open, for instance, the voice recorder app, right? So let's just go and search for voice memos. So I want you to see and look at the very top right-hand corner of the screen. As soon as I open this app and start recording, you'll see there's a little orange dot that just appeared all the way on the top of the screen. And essentially what that little dot shows me is that something is using my microphone. So for instance, if I'm seeing the little dot on the top, you can actually just go into Control Center and it'll tell you, oh, hold on, voice memos is using your microphone. And the same goes for the video camera, right? So if you are using the video camera, then you'll see a green dot. So again, these little tools are built in just again to help you with your privacy. So that's definitely something that I think a lot of customers appreciate, and definitely something that you get with the world of iPhone. So a couple of final things to talk about. I guess we are coming towards the latter part of our session. So we spoke about privacy. And I mentioned this also earlier in terms of accessibility also being built in. So you don't have to go and buy additional software or download anything. All these are built in. So for instance, like voice control, switch control, you can actually link up with switch control. You can link up like a gaming controller to your iPhone, right? Not to play games, although you can also do that, but to control the whole device. So for instance, let's say if you have motor difficulties in terms of maybe there's some kind of a disability, that is, for instance, something you can easily do to kind of help you out in terms of navigating your device. Magnify, speak screen, these are all things that's built in. I like to do this for instance, if I'm reading an article and I've got my AirPods in and I'm about to get in the car, I just go speak screen and it actually reads the entire screen for me. And this is like a accessibility, a voice over feature that you can easily do on your phone. So lots of things built in. And if this is something that's important to you, or if you know someone that might benefit from that, then definitely kind of let them go to the iStore. We've got some people that know a lot more about accessibility features that can show you more. So finally, right, I've shown you a whole bunch of things, but maybe just let's talk about one or two last little tips and tricks in terms of using an iPhone to kind of make your life easy. And I've got a few things here maybe just to chat about. So for instance, AirDrop. If you know anyone with an iPhone, then you probably heard them talk about AirDrop. And AirDrop is really sending files from one Apple device to another one without internet, without a connection. So you can be on a camping site with no Wi-Fi, but you've taken some photos and then your friend says, send them to me. So even if there is no internet and connection, you can still actually just AirDrop them from device to device. And it takes a couple of seconds for them to have all of your photos, right? Which is probably one of my favorite things called Do Not Disturb. Actually, let me quickly put my iPhone on and I'll show you maybe just one or two of these little things. So there's my iPhone. I want to show you the one called Do Not Disturb. So check this out. If I just go from the top right into my control center, you can see there's a couple of controls and I can go and access, my volume and different things here. By the way, most of these things also have additional levels. So if I go into maybe the brightness one, if I just tap and hold that for a second, you can see I get extra tools, right? Maybe a finer control of my brightness and also things like dark mode, night shift, true tone. I can set it all there. But the one I'm talking about specifically is the one with a little crescent moon. It's called Do Not Disturb. So I can just tap it and it'll kind of any notifications, any calls will just literally be canceled. Not canceled, but just silent. But there's another thing you can do. If I just tap and hold on it, you can see it gives me a few options. If you had a meeting, for instance, there'll be another option, which is, just turn this on for the length of this meeting. Or maybe a cool one also, which I like to use is until I leave this location, which mean, again, if you're going to a meeting and you are walking into the building, you turn on Do Not Disturb until I leave this meeting. And essentially all your notifications will be silenced. And as you walk out of the building, back into your car, your phone will go back into, receiving and getting all your messages. Little things, right? So for instance, even things like FaceTime, you can have up to 32 people on a FaceTime call. We've kind of seen things like live photo already, but even little things like the measure app. So I don't think I've got something to measure right here, but and also my desk is a bit of a mess, so I don't really want to show you my camera. But there's a cool app, which is called the measure app. Let me actually just quickly have it here right in front of me. So there's a measure app, for instance, right? So if I show this up, you can see it kind of allows me to, there's my iPad over there. So if I actually just tap on that corner, you can actually then measure things. So it's going to be 8 centimeters from there to there, right? If you wanted to see maybe how big that little trackpad is, you can see I can actually add a rectangle. And you can actually see, okay, that's 5 by 10 centimeters, which is 50 square centimeters. And I'm literally just holding up my iPhone and pointing it to things around me, right? So this is using, again, some of that neural engine stuff we spoke about earlier on. And also things like, especially if you have an iPhone 12 Pro, it's got a LiDAR scanner, which does things like depth sensing. So some pretty cool stuff that is built into your iPhone. Okay, so let's kind of move back to our presentation because we do just kind of start wrapping it up. So there's my keynote. There we go. I guess maybe just let's bring it together in terms of talking about value. So iPhones also in general, and you'll definitely see this if you go and look at some secondhand sites, you'll see iPhones have a much better retail value, secondhand value, sorry, than other devices. There's actually been an article just last week, and I'm going to actually quickly go and try and find it, not now, but I do want to kind of just go and save it because I want to reference it. And what they did is they looked at the latest iPhones, which is the iPhone 12s. They came out at the end of last year, as you know. And what they've seen is they've kind of dropped about 18% in terms of resale value. So if you had to buy one secondhand, you can probably expect to pay about 18% less on that. And then also they looked at some of the other flagships that came out this year, right? So newer devices that came out this year, also flagship devices from other companies. And what they found is up to 44% of value already kind of lost on those devices. If you had to buy one of them and then try and sell it secondhand, you already lost 44% in even less months. So why am I saying this? It is because you have to factor this in if you are considering your device, because not only are you going to look at all the things you can do with it, but also what is the return on investment? So for instance, if you're going to sell it in or sell it in a couple of years, will you get much for that device? So Apple is then giving you some great options because you can then turn your device that you own into the device that you want. So if you have an iPhone already, after a couple of years, you can trade it in, for instance, and still get a very good amount for that device, which means you are retaining more of that value. So a better resale value, virus-free essentially, because Apple controls so much. People don't download just anything from the web on there. It means everything is just on the App Store that you can install, which, by the way, has got the most apps. But also these things have been checked, so you don't have to worry about viruses on your iPhone, for instance. You don't have to install antivirus software necessarily. But also, if you go into the store, right, we can help you out with some training and setup and make sure you can get everything done. We spoke about updates already, and also just, I guess, great build qualities. So iPhones being made with glass, aluminium, stainless steel. Again, it talks about that durability and also longevity of these devices. So I guess the final thoughts are, if you are considering moving to iPhone, there's actually some software that you can use to do this. It is made by Apple. It is called Move to iOS. And this is found on the Google Play Store. And what you do if you want to transfer some of your existing content, you can download this on the Play Store. And then as you set up your iPhone, you can actually then tell it to use that function. It'll actually then copy over a whole bunch of things from your existing device, including photos. Some of maybe the known apps will kind of allow you to kind of find the same app on the iOS side. Contacts, messages, those things will come across as well. So you don't have to start all the way fresh, right? So I guess finally choosing the right phone. There is really a phone for everybody. So you don't have to go for the iPhone 12 Pro Max if you don't necessarily want to go to the latest and greatest. There's a whole range. And also, because I said this earlier, because Apple keeps on supporting software for many, many years, even if you buy a phone that is maybe last year's model, even the year before's model, you still know you're going to get a few years of latest version updates, even for those devices. So really, there's a device for everybody and also for every budget. And then talking about budget, if you are considering, getting one of these at the iStore, I do want to tell you just a couple options maybe that you might want to consider. So for instance, there's trade-in. We spoke about trade-in already, but you can actually trade in up to 5 devices. So imagine you got, an older Apple devices, that's fine. Even non-Apple devices. So maybe you've got an Android phone, for instance, you can bring that in, they'll give you a value for it, and you can then use that to offset your new purchase. But also there's obviously the normal things like Vodacom, MTN, Telkom, that's all available. Even F&B and Discovery have some great options. That's actually how I got my iPhone, is through Discovery. So if anyone here is a Discovery client, then if you meet your goals, you essentially can get an iPhone for free, which is also pretty cool, right? And then finally, also just to mention, yep, there's some great reasons to visit the iStore, right? So like we said, you can save up to 10,000 when you trade in. You get free eye care as well. And also, all the contract options are there available for you under one roof. So with that being said, I think we've come to the end of our session. So I'd like to thank you for joining. Maybe give us some feedback in the chat if there's any questions or any concerns that anyone still has, maybe something that is holding you back. And we can definitely see how we can maybe answer your questions. But overall, I just thank you for joining. And I hope there's something that you've learned, something you've seen that hopefully have given you a bit of extra light into the world of iPhone and how using an iPhone is essentially going to make your life easier. So I think at that stage, if there's no more questions or comments, then I'm going to say just thanks for joining and stay safe, everybody. And also thank you in the chat. Yeah, so I see a couple of you are saying thanks for the information. No problem. Okay, everybody, keep well. Cheerio.